On the pod today, I am like so honored to have Bryn in the studio. It's just like it's a moment crying out. I'm really honored to have Bryn in the studio to have a chat around a pretty like a heavy topic, but like a really important one that is predominantly grief. Bryn, you unfortunately lost. We're off to a good start.
Oh,
Bryn, you lost your beautiful mum, Nikki, a year ago. Was it a year?
yeah, like a year and a bit.
A year and a bit ago to cancer. And I am so sorry. You very bravely like have shared your rawness of experiencing grief and like what that period was like even leading up to Nikki passing. And I have watched how beautifully and rawly you have done that because I follow you personally on Instagram, and that's like a really hard thing to do, like to sit in that space of being really vulnerable and like riding the waves of emotions and how you're feeling. And so then we connected and now you're going to sit down and share this with me. So thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thank you for having me
Oh.
and giving me space to talk about a really hard thing.
Yeah, it's a really hard conversation. I preface to say, like, I am not a professional in the space of like therapy or anything, but you know, there's nothing more cathartic than talking about it. When we spoke, I know that, you know, we agreed that there would be so many people that might be going through a similar circumstance, and it's nice to not feel alone. I really admire the way that you have been able to do that so openly. So here we are having a chat. Gonna try really hard not to cry, and that is like
Cry again.
not to cry again.
It's going to be an emotional one. We know this, but
Yeah.
yeah.
We're just gonna strap in and
Go for
we're
it.
gonna go for it. Hey, I'm Loz McGlynn and this is Yeah the Gals, a podcast for the ones doing the juggle. I'll be chatting with women in the thick of it, those taking big leaps, and experts with the insights that we usually type into Google at 2 a.m. If you're winging it like me, you're in the right place, and I am so glad you're here. Let's get into it. But we might start, and I would love to know, like, tell me about your mum. Who was she? What was she like?
Well, her name was Nikki.
Yeah.
She was a nurse. She'd been a nurse for 30 years, so pretty much since I was a baby. She had me at 22. Me and my sister, we always grew up we called ourselves the Three Musketeers. My mum was a bit chaotic. If you knew her, she was like a headless chook at all times, like never chill, but so much fun. She was definitely known as, I would think, like the fun mum. She was really like lovable, loving, completely selfless person.
Yeah.
There's one thing I've reflected on a lot about my mum is how much she would always put us first and other people first. And is it a quality I am now striving to attain?
Mm.
But yeah, she was just a beautiful soul. She loved to have fun.
Yeah.
She loved my friends, was always like that our home is an open door policy kind of person. She was my lifeline, really. Yeah.
Safe to say that you guys had like a really close relationship.
We did.
Yeah.
I think like growing up the way we did, there was like a period there of just that single mum hustling for her girls kind of thing, and she'd been through some things that just made her such a strong person. We were always really close.
Yeah.
We had a funny relationship. Like we would always butt heads and we would always nitpick and, you know, have little tiffs and things like that, but there was so much love there, like for sure.
I think that's like pretty standard case scenario in the sense of like butting heads with your mum, and especially when you've got like two daughters as well. Like emotions, hormones, like absolutely wild.
Female energy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I don't want to say big dick energy, but like a little, like, can we say that?
I definitely had that.
Yeah.
Growing up as a teenager, she used to tell me as an adult, like, she'd tell my husband now, actually, like, you don't even know who she used to be. She was so mean to me. She's so nice now.
Like my mum would say the exact same thing. And like one thing you said too is like she always sort of put everyone before herself.
Yeah.
Like at what point did she start to show signs of potential, like something wrong and there was like a little bit of sickness or an underlying health going on? Like, what did that look like?
Like, upon reflection, it had actually been going on for quite a while, but the symptoms were so vague, or as you would perceive as like common things that would happen, that it didn't really cotton on to us that there was something serious happening. I'd say in like the month or two leading up to her diagnosis, she started to get some really severe stomach pain, and it was like really abnormal. She couldn't eat. She'd come out, like we lived with my mum at this time, kind of like keeled over in pain. She couldn't swallow. She felt nauseous all the time. And it was at that point that I was like, you really need to go and get a scan, because you can't just eat a box of Gaviscon every day. Like, this isn't heartburn.
Yeah.
So it wasn't very long beforehand, I would say, like in the grand scheme of life, only a couple of months. But looking back now, she would always make random comments like, I feel really nauseous for no reason, or she would never eat. Like, she was like, I'm so full, and would just eat like a toddler for maybe a couple of years, actually.
Yeah.
Now that we think about it.
Wow. And so funny that for someone who is both a nurse,
Yeah.
but that selflessness is of like that pushing your own like things to the side just to like get on with the day-to-day life.
Ironic, isn't it?
Very ironic. And so she then went and saw like a GP, or went and
Yeah. So she saw her GP, which is like our family GP. He's was best friends with my nan and my pop. So was very transparent with him. He sent her for a CT pretty much straight away. And she was nervous about it. I think that she knew something was seriously happening. Yeah, he called with the results and didn't say anything except, I've booked you in to see this surgeon,
Wow.
like urgently.
Yeah, wow.
She knew.
Yeah.
She knew what that meant. I guess being a nurse for so long, like, you don't question those things. You kind of have an idea of what it could potentially be. And then it was all pretty intense from that point, that first meeting with the surgeon. It's when everything felt like it started to fall apart. It was just like bad news after bad news after bad news in like the space of a month. They sent her for an endoscopy pretty quickly. So like a camera to look down her throat to confirm some things. And then, yeah, it was stage 4 stomach cancer. They had confirmed there was 2 theories. It was either just going to be a mass in her stomach, in which case they would remove her whole stomach and do some treatment, and she'd have a pretty okay outlook, or it had spread. And ultimately, it had spread into like the lining of her stomach, like the peritoneum, which unfortunately, and some lymph nodes, which unfortunately is like a pretty grim outlook. But yeah, they just went in hard with her treatment from there. Yeah, it all happened very rapidly, which is a good thing. It felt like it was dragging on at the time, but now when you look at the actual time frame, it was pretty quick.
And it's like, I guess cancer is such a prevalent thing in society, but then the severities and like there's so many variables. And so it's hard, like I imagine, you want the exact answer and outlook in that first appointment, but that's not something they can give you.
No. So they can't even really tell you like where it is or what it is at the first appointment, or even blood test or camera or biopsy. Well, biopsy is pretty conclusive, but they have to do so many scans to see where it's spread and what it's spread to. In terms of like prognosis, in our experience anyway, I know you hear people say, oh, you've got a year or whatever. But in our experience, they didn't want to do that. They said it's stage 4, it's incurable, essentially terminal. But there's options we can try that will essentially could prolong your life. But at no point were we given a time frame of when this would happen.
What did those next couple of months look like for you guys from that initial appointment? It was like surgery straight away.
Yeah, so they didn't end up taking out her stomach because it wasn't that kind of cancer.
Okay.
They said that surgery and the recovery required to do that would put her out of action for too long, that they needed to start the chemo straight away. It was more dangerous to let the other cells spread than it was to leave the mass there. So yeah, from memory, We started chemo like within a couple of weeks, like 2 weeks, I think. And it was a really intensive treatment every 3 weeks at the hospital. And then for that remainder of that week would wear like a pump at home. So she had to get a point put in her chest, like a permanent PICC line sort of thing. And then she would wear that at home for the 4 days and then go in and get it removed and then have 2 weeks off and then start again. So, yeah, that started in, like, April, May. We found out kind of March. Um, it was really intense and it was really scary.
How did your mum process everything that was happening?
She was extremely strong. She was so positive. Like, she at no point ever spoke about the negative. It was always like, "I'm going to fight this. I'm going to do this. It's okay. This is just part of the story." Like, but that was just her as a person. Like, there's no way that you could find out this news and not be internally screaming. Like, there's just no way. She
Yeah.
had to quit her job of 30 years and she was, she'd actually just got a new role, like, in her career and was all excited about that. Like, there were just so many things happening for her in her life at that moment that had to abruptly stop. That the fact that she was able to just put on a brave face and just be like, "We're attacking this head first,"
Yeah.
was really admirable. I didn't really, even when she told us, she, like, had a smile on her face, like, "It's gonna be okay," and I was not okay. Mind you, I was pregnant at the time, so my emotions were already extremely heightened, but it was definitely like a crash and burn feeling for me.
I was gonna say, you not only like, you were living with her at the time, you had Ollie, your son,
Yeah.
who was how old?
He just turned 3,
Yeah.
and yeah, we were living with her, and we had a house that we were moving out to at the exact same time that this happened. So that was so stressful because I didn't want to leave her. I knew that she'd need help, but then she said, "No, I can't have Ollie here. Like, there's no way that I can bring daycare germs home.
Yeah.
I can't risk that." And so that kind of just worked out
Like, made the
organically.
decision for you
Made the
guys.
decision for us, which I'm kind of glad because I felt very ready for my own space again, but, like, very needed.
Yeah.
Like, I can't leave you here by yourself.
Yeah.
And it was very overwhelming,
Yeah.
how we were gonna juggle everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys also got married in around about that time.
Yeah.
When was the
So
wedding
we
as
got
well?
married on the 1st of December the year before,
Yeah.
which I think I said to you before, like, I'm so glad that we did that now. We had doubts about the wedding, not marrying each other, but, like, just it was just so overwhelming, and I wanted to do it before we tried for another baby and put so much pressure on myself to do that, and obviously financial pressure and all that kind of stuff. Like, we should have just eloped. But yeah, now looking back, it was like the last big memory I have with my mom that was so important, that wasn't tainted by the cancer. Like, we
Yeah.
didn't know then. And I think just having that, like, pure memory with her and her, like, doing up my shoes and zipping up my dress and giving a speech and all that kind of stuff, like, yeah, it was meant to happen that way.
Yeah.
And she looked so beautiful that day. She actually asked to be cremated in that dress because it was the most beautiful she's ever felt. So, yeah, it's very special, my wedding photos and my mum.
Yeah.
Sorry.
100%. I
But
think.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it was all, like, big things happening, and
Yeah.
I got pregnant, like, literally the next month. So it was all very, like, exciting things happening, and then
Oh,
just massive
huge
shock and
changes.
yeah, like, everything shifted massively.
Between the period of her diagnosis and then going through, she had surgery, she went through chemo, it was really intensive. How long was it before, like, was there a point where she got better and the outlook looked like that it looked a little bit more positive, or was it like like pretty like close succinct into like what happened next?
No, there was definitely a point at which she got better. We have it recorded and it's really hard to watch, but she got a call from her doctor saying that all her tumors were shrinking and she was, like, shrieking around the house, like, so happy. Came into my sister's room. I was sitting on my sister's bed and we were filming it. And, she was just like, thank you so much, and just felt so good. And I can't remember exactly when that was, like a few months in, she was responding to the chemo and she handled the chemo like a boss. Like I expected hair to fall out, bedridden for weeks, none of her hair fell out. Like she was still like, can I have Ollie tonight? Blah, blah, blah. I'd say it was around September, October that she started to get really sick again. And that was the same time they kind of commenced I think it's called immunotherapy.
Yeah.
And some radiation, which was also the same time that Billy was due. So it was all pretty hectic at that time. She had a couple of hospitalizations, really low in iron, just really feeling unwell, but they kept saying the tumors are shrinking. We think this is more like side effect stuff that is really affecting you really badly. Which I guess is ultimately what led us to the last hospital visit. She called me and asked me to take her in because she thought her iron was really low again. And yeah, she didn't, really come back.
Did you guys know at that point, like we sort of spoke about this, but when you went and saw her, that was quite heavy. I mean, I think the whole experience you could say was a very, very heavy. But do you think that, like, did you know when she was going to hospital that was at that point?
So that day that I dropped her off, and I'll explain why I just dropped her off. I had the 2 kids in the car. They were screaming. One was sick. And she said, oh, just drop me off at the hospital. And I felt really bad. I felt really off about it. Like she just didn't look well. So I sat in the waiting bay and I called my husband and I said, where are you? I can't go into the hospital, but you need to come and like either swap with me and take the kids, or you take her in. So thankfully he was only around the corner and he did that, and he came and he took her in. And we've dropped her off a couple of times. Well, I've taken her in a couple of times rather, but taken her to the hospital, and he came out and he called me straight away and he was like, that was different, Brinlie. He's like, I don't know what it was, but it felt different. And she wouldn't let us come and see her for the first 4 or 5 days, and which was really strange. But she's like, no, there's a COVID lockdown on the ward. And now I look back, I think that's a lie. I'm really tired. I just want to sleep, until like a few days later, she called and she said the doctor wants to have a family meeting tomorrow at 11. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, then I knew that it was not good. Ultimately, her treatment was the reason that she passed so quickly. Her radiation burnt a hole through her peritoneum. And then she had a bowel blockage and she essentially went septic. So we didn't know it was going to happen so quickly. And that conversation was something I'll never, ever forget, with all those doctors in the room. It was very intense.
Did you guys like have any conversations prior? Like you guys had spoken around how you did to some capacity like know that it was terminal, but how do you even how does one have those kinds of conversations of what life will look like?
We never, ever did. It wasn't in her. It did not serve her mindset to attack her treatment, to have those conversations. I don't think she knew it didn't serve our mindset to bring a baby into the world. My sister has a chronic illness. She was not doing well either. It was just everyone had to stay positive. She didn't want to talk about that. And like, obviously we didn't either. But I'm a bit more of a realist, I suppose, which is why I've took every step of this journey really hard, because I'd always like kind of skip to what could really actually happen. But yeah, no, we didn't have any conversations about her dying until we were told that she was dying, like acutely dying, which made for a very intense time, because it's like there's so much to say. Is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be next week? And they literally couldn't tell us. They said a couple of days to a couple of weeks, which was, like the biggest like heartbreak I've ever felt. And glad we didn't, though. You know, made things I didn't want every single moment to be tainted by, what if he die?
Yeah.
What do we do then? There were signs. In December, after a hospital stay, she came home and she's like, I'm going to take my super out. And the whole journey, she was like, I'm not touching my super. Like, I'm going to need that. Like, I'm going to need that when I'm better, or when, she knew she was never going to be better. She thought she had like years. We all kind of got in that mindset with her. But when she started going down that journey, I started to really doubt where her head was at or what conversations were being had that she maybe wasn't telling us. But that was still only December.
Yeah.
So it was very, very fast.
And that was the January.
She passed on Australia Day. Yeah. So January 26th.
Yeah.
At 12:30 a.m.
Did you get a chance to say goodbye? Were you guys there as well?
We weren't there. So I'd stayed, like, I guess to summarize what happened, she was in hospital for a couple of weeks and she really, really wanted to go home. Palliative care organised for us to take her home. However, I made it very clear to my mum in the moments that she was lucid. She was quite medicated at this point. I was like, I'm not going to be able to nurse you till the end. I'm not cut out for this. I just want to be with you. Like, we didn't have enough support for it to even be feasible. So anyway, we got her organised to take her home, and lots of her friends who were also nurses were like staying with us, and she just went downhill so quickly as soon as we got home. It was only 3 days and we had to call an ambulance. So we did that and they took her to the palliative care unit. They'd already had discussions with us, like, girls, it's here when you're ready. Like, there's a room for her when you're ready. That was the Sunday. And then I stayed with her pretty much like 24/7. Sam would bring Billy up to me for feeds and pumping and stuff like that. And then on that last day, my auntie hadn't come and stayed with her yet. She really wanted to. And I said, that's fine. I've said bye. Like, I need you to have your night with her. It felt weird walking out that day. I felt like it was the last day. And the day before, I didn't feel that way. I was like, I'll be back tomorrow. I just knew it in my head. And then that Thursday, yeah, so many people came up that day and saw her. I remember dropping my wedding ring, which is made out of all my mum's wedding ring stuff. I dropped it down the grates on the deck at the palliative care unit. And I was just like screaming and wailing. And like, we were literally lifting up floorboards and stuff to get this. I was like, this can't be happening. And it was such an emotion-filled day. I just knew that we were close to the end. And then, yeah, my auntie called me in the middle of the night. I was fast asleep. And Sam answered and he, woke me up and said, she's gone. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
That's like, yeah, that is like in its whole. I mean, we haven't even spoken about you trying to be a new mum in all of this as well. I can't imagine that process and, grieving someone before they're gone as well. Like there is so many like layers to what that experience would have been like for you. You did a phenomenal job of relaying that. One of the things that we spoke about was like the special bond that your mum had with Ollie, and that you actually said that.
No, I'm going to cry already.
Yeah, that you believe that one of the reasons that she was able to hold on as long as she did was because of Ollie.
Yeah.
And she said that.
She said that all the time. She was like, he's my strength, Brinlie. Like, I don't know what I would do without this little boy. Like, I think Mum had a bit of a rough trot, like, in her personal life. And I think that Ollie just gave her life and gave her purpose outside of work and, like, other things that just didn't fill her cup as much anymore. And I think, yeah, she loved that little boy. Like, I think I said this to you the other day, but, like, no one loves a child more than their parents. Like, well, we do anyway, but if there was anyone, it was her. Like, he was a very lucky little boy, and that's what makes me very sad. Like, he now has to grow up without her.
And because he was 3 at the time.
Yeah.
But they're at that age where, I mean, they don't know the complexities, but one day she's there and then the next day she's not.
Yeah.
And you've got a 4-month-old at home as well. What was that like, trying to explain and navigate being a mum, but also trying to tell them in the right way, and there's no right way
Yeah.
to
It was intense. It's like something I didn't know I was gonna have to learn to do. It's like when you're teaching them about, like, stranger danger and crossing the road, like, they're all lessons you're like, "You gotta word this right," but telling him about death when he was 3 was so hard, and we wanted to tread really carefully with it. I think it even started, like, before she died when Mummy was away a lot, like, but Billy would always come with me. Like, I would stay at her house or I'd be at the hospital all day long with the baby and just having to explain to him that, Nanny was getting looked after by the doctors. But we actually they approached us, but we were going to anyway, a social worker through the hospital. She was there, I guess, for us, but I mainly used her to be like, how do I approach this with a 3-year-old? And she said, you have to be literal with them. It's the safest way. It sounds like the harshest way, but if you say, Nanny's gone to sleep, he's going to be scared to go to sleep. Like, Nanny went to sleep and she's not going to wake up again. He's going to be scared to go to sleep. Nanny had a sore tummy and the doctors couldn't fix it. Like, things you would say, I've got a sore tummy all the time, or your kids do. We then had to reframe that and reword that because I never wanted him to think that if you get a sore tummy, you die. So we told him that she was very, very sick and her body stopped working, and we weren't going to see her again. And that's all we could do. Like, that wasn't the only conversation. Like, it would happen so often because he forgets, he doesn't understand. He's 3. Like, we would drive to, my sister still lived at her house at this point for 6 months. So we were there all the time. He's like, where is she? Go into her room. Where's Nanny?
they're so literal, like, to your point, and
so literal. And I never, like, at the start, we didn't use the concept of heaven. But we do now because we were like, he just keeps asking questions. I need to give him, like, a place that people go. And we also started to, like, lose other people in our world. And so explain to him, this person's now died or the dog has died. And, like, they're all in heaven together. It's okay. But then he'd learn about space at school and he would ask to get in a rocket ship. And Daddy needed to go to the construction site and build a rocket ship so he could go and get Nanny out of heaven. And, like, you just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I don't have the answers for this. Like, I just navigated it on the spot. And sometimes it was sitting in the car, facing out, was crying while he asked me in the back seat and him just not seeing. But that's been so hard. He then went through a bit of a phase, like, maybe 6 months ago, 5 months ago, where you could tell he was a bit angry. And it just came out of nowhere. And he's like, why did she leave me? And that, like, stabbed me like a knife because I never ever want him to think that she chose this.
Yeah.
He thinks she just went away. So yeah, it's been really hard and
the grief that you're trying to, like, no one really know, like, I imagine that, grief isn't something that you read a book about and then all of a sudden you know how to process,
right.
and, you're trying to grieve whilst trying to be there for your kids.
Yeah.
What was that what was those few months after your mum had passed?
It was really challenging because I wanted to protect him. Like, it was easier with Billy because she was so small that she wasn't even remotely aware of anything that was happening, still wouldn't be now. But I really wanted to protect him from seeing me in so much pain because there were days where, like, I was, a puddle and I was painfully crying and things like that. Sam was really good in terms of just redirecting him or giving me space if those were the days. We also found it very hard to explain to him that we were sad and wanted to keep her memory alive, but then not question when she's going to come back. Like, it was so complex to try and talk about her but make him understand she's not here anymore at the same time.
Yeah. And you also don't know what kind of questions he's going to ask you or, like, what's going to come out or how he's going to interpret what you're saying.
Yeah.
It sounds like you did absolutely everything that you knew to do.
He still throws curveballs, like, every day. With Billy, a lot of people have said to me, like, I don't know how you got up every day and parented. And honestly, I like neither. But also, I don't know how I would have done it without them. That's how what I truly look at it like. I'm like, if I didn't have a reason to get out of bed, and I know this wouldn't be the same for everyone, but having a purpose to be with them made it a lot easier for me to get through my days. Like she needed me. She was breastfeeding and a little baby, and he needed attention and love. Like he just lost one of the most important people in his life. Like I just had to show up for them. And I feel like if they weren't, if I didn't have to parent, I probably would have just been in bed all day. Because I found other things really hard to do. Like I found going to work really hard to do. I found socializing really hard to do. But being a parent for the most part, at the start, maybe I was in a bit of shock, was what was keeping me going for sure.
Does the world look different to you?
Yeah. Everything looks different. Things that you didn't notice before are just so apparent now. Like I can't go to the shops or to walk, like take Billy for a walk in the pram at Terrigal or something now without tearing up behind my sunglasses when I see another mum my age with her mum. Everything feels so fragile. Like the anxieties I have now around my kids losing me and never having to feel the way that I feel, whatever stage of life they're in. Yeah, like who I want to be as a person, who I want to be as a friend, I think has changed a lot. Like I saw the way that some of my mom's oldest friends showed up for her on her like literal deathbed, and I'm like, I want to be that friend to someone. And that's who I want in my life, like those ride or die people. And I hate saying ride or die, but like those are the people, that
Ride or die.
yeah, that's just how I see the world now, where maybe as before I was just like a little bit more on the surface.
Yeah.
Which is fine as well. You can't always be deep,
Yeah.
but I definitely see things different, and like daily activities, like the very simple things affect me now.
Because they talk about grief being in stages, or like it not necessarily being linear, but maybe that's the best way to explain that. It like you go through this and then this and this. What has your experience been in grief?
I personally just don't understand that. Yeah, like at all. Like I've obviously heard of it extensively prior to going through grief, but I've never felt like I was in a stage of denial or in a stage of anger or whatever the stages are. And it's definitely not linear. I think the worst I felt within my grief was actually like 10 months after she passed. And there were so many things that led up to that point. And I think I was just in shock for all of those things. There was a point in which Billy had just turned 1 and she had a medical emergency. She was hypoglycemic. I took her to the hospital. I didn't know this at the time, but they pushed a button and they said, resuscitate 3 or 2 or whatever it was, pediatrics, and they rushed us around and they took us into the room that they took my mum in when we called the ambulance for her. And I watched my little girl like lying there limp. That was the day the wheels came off for me. That was like such a triggering event that sparked so much emotion in me that for the next 3 months, I just felt like a completely different human. Had rage, what I thought was rage, but now I know was more so adrenaline. My psychologist has explained to me I was at my top tier levels of fight or flight, that I'd kind of poured over the edge of that. Sadness, couldn't think. I'd get like hot and fuzzy in my head, couldn't do anything. Which then ultimately led into Christmas and the anniversary of her death, which were all just like, so those 3-4 months were almost a blur to me now. Like it was only a couple of months ago and I feel so different right now in this moment. But that is just to what you were saying. It's just so not linear. It's can just come in waves. You could just be having even just the best day on a more daily basis, just having the best day going about your day, and I'll drive past something that reminds me of her, or I'll think of something that then, yeah, your brain just takes you places.
Yeah.
And then you end up crying.
I mean, the fact that your daughter had some health issues off the back of something so huge, and to be taken into the same room, I didn't know that. And that is a whole layer in itself. To like we talk about this concept of health anxiety as well when things happen and you are dealing with a potential like sickness with your daughter, like where does your mind go? Like has that also warped how different things show up, like just everyday sickness and things like that for you?
Yeah, I think the way it's changed for me is I would always have my mum to go to when my kids were sick. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like that has made me feel really stressed and really alone and not able to just think rationally when it comes to their sicknesses because I don't have her to bounce off. And then when it comes to myself, as soon as I get any sort of symptom, I tend to spiral a lot now because I know what started for her and what that looked like and what she was probably thinking like, oh, it's nothing, oh, it's nothing. And you don't want to let yourself go to that place where, you know, Dr. Google says you have brain cancer because you have a headache, but like that's what happens.
Yeah.
You get a lump or a bump or something that's just not, that's a little bit out of the ordinary for you. And I have intrusive thoughts about dying and my children living without me. And yeah, having to go to the hospital so many times with Billy, the same hospital my mum died in, has been very hard. And that journey was something we obviously didn't know was going to happen. My psychologist was like, people don't go back to hospitals their loved ones died in for like 10 years. I had to go back a month later and she was wheeled through the same hallway that mum was. And that's been something I've had to get help to process because it is an ongoing thing and we will probably inevitably go back there. And I was doing my midwifery placement at the same hospital and
Man, just throw all of this in there.
I just don't know why I do know why I did it. Like I wanted to. I was so passionate about it, but it ultimately led to a pretty big crash and burn because I was compartmentalizing to a point that I just didn't cope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, bit on. And you talked about your psychologist. What's been some of the things that have helped you afterwards? Like you've spoken about seeing a psychologist.
Yeah. I've never seen a psychologist before in my whole life. I've never, like, thankfully really struggled with any needs to. And it wasn't until this big kind of crash and burn happened in November for me that I even saw one. It wasn't something that when mum passed away, I was like, immediately need to get help. They pass you through to grief counsellors that are funded by the government. They call you and it's all very like wishy-washy and it's kind of like take it or leave it. For me, it was pretty life-changing, to be honest. And I would encourage, if anyone's on the fence, if you think you need to talk to someone, just give it a try. It's not going to hurt. It could be the best thing you've ever done. I think it's helped me process some trauma, which has been the main thing for me that was bogging me down as a human being, was the triggers and the trauma and the anxiety and me being, I'd gone past fight or flight and I was in freeze state. And therefore I couldn't just process the day-to-day things. So you pile grief on top of that and I just couldn't function.
Yeah.
Dysfunctional, really. So it has helped me a lot. For me, and I think that's how we connected, is posting about my grief a little bit on social media. It's just more of an outlet for me. It's like a cathartic thing. Like if you put it on paper or you put it on the internet or whatever it is. But what has come of that is a lot of people connecting with me about their own experiences, either to reach out and support you or share a story, or you end up having these really beautiful conversations with someone and you feel way less alone because they have also lost their mum, or they're also navigating being a mum without their mum, or they've lost their dad or their brother or something. And yeah, so I think talking helps.
Yeah.
Talking definitely helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you do it so beautifully as well. I think that is, like, as I said at the start, like, I think that's so admirable. There are people that process grief in, like, different ways. Like, I know people that silence is the way that they deal with it. And it's really hard to sort of understand what's below the surface.
Yeah.
For someone that's going through grief or a really like life-altering experience, how have you found like the people around you, what's been helpful in the way that they've shown up for you or not shown up,
Yeah. I think like, people have been really helpful with helping us take the lid off with the kids, especially. Like, we don't have a lot of family around, and everyone's very well aware of that. And sometimes it can just become extremely overwhelming. So my friends were amazing in the fact that they're like, we'll take them, like, we'll do this, blah, blah, blah. I think, like, as a friend, just listening, like letting someone talk to you and not trying to fix it. That's been the main thing I've learned is you can't fix it. You just need to allow them space to talk about it, talk about their loved one. Don't act like they don't exist anymore. And I don't think anyone ever would do that purposefully or maliciously. I think it's just so uncomfortable and you don't know where you're going to overstep if it's going to hurt the person that's grieving to bring up the person they're grieving. But for me, my personal experience with that is it just sort of makes it feel like they don't exist anymore, whereas like they very much exist to you. We were inundated with meals when my mum died. Like, we literally had to go and buy a chest freezer off Marketplace, and it was just the most beautiful gesture off so many people because we were frozen. We were mentally exhausted. Like, 'cause the last thing you want to do is cook a meal for a family, especially after navigating such intense emotions every single day. So I think if you're not one with words, then that's a beautiful gesture that you can, it's like almost like postpartum,
Yeah.
but it was on steroids.
Yeah.
Like, it was so amazing.
Yeah.
And it helped so much. The people that just would show up, like the friends would just show up like, I know you didn't ask me to come over. You don't even have to talk to me, but I'm here and I'm just going to wash the dishes. But then you end up talking to them and it just helps you and it just gives you a little bit of breathing space for that day.
I think for some people there is this fear like of doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing, and so then the automatic response is not saying anything because if I don't say anything I can't get it wrong. But then in that way you're kind of having the opposite effect of what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
And so it's really reassuring to hear from you, for anybody that's listening, that it's like, just be there. Just be there.
I'm so guilty of this too. Like, I would never sit here and be like, I haven't done that, or it wasn't a natural response to just like, it's almost like the bystander effect, you know, like someone will call the police.
Yeah.
But just from going through it myself and even reflecting on how I've been in the past, if I've had a friend that lost a parent and I've just thought, wow, I just wish I did better. I wish I did better for you then. But yeah, just don't say nothing.
Yeah.
Don't say nothing because it makes it a lot harder.
Yeah.
I know it's nice to say, like, let me know what you need. That's what we all do, right? It's like, oh, let me know if you need anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so natural. I do it every day. I do it to, you know, my sister when she's upset or whatever. Like, let me know what you need.
Yeah.
She's not going to tell me what she needs.
Yeah.
She probably doesn't know what she needs. Like, I think just assuming they need something and then maybe just doing it isn't enough, leaving it at the door, or just a text, thinking of you today.
Just doing it anyway.
Just doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is just something I'm not sitting here saying I did this before. I've just learned how I would want to move forward in my life if, you know, I'm going to have friends that are going to go through some heavy stuff. It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And that's how I will actively be.
Tell me about your husband, Sam. So
Do you want to know?
he's navigating this with you, alongside you. How did you guys do this together with 2 young babies at the same time?
I think there was just never any question that we had no choice. Like, he's always been so solid for me through everything from literally before we were even dating. I went through some pretty heavy stuff with my family and he's just always been that person. I definitely wouldn't have got through any of this without him. And I know like anyone would say that about their husband, but he's just been such a pillar. He'll just drop everything. He's made sacrifices. We've definitely taken like financial brunt because of me not being able to work, because I just haven't been in the state to. He just will always show up for the kids no matter what. The hardest part of that though is I just don't think he ever gave himself like much of a chance to grieve because he had his husband hat protector hat on, which I'm so grateful for, don't get me wrong. But he was so close to my mum. Like, they would literally stay up late at night, sitting out the back, having a beer, probably talking about how much of a bitch I was when I was 14. But they were so close. Like, he was like her son.
Yeah.
She loved him so, so much. And so he was devastated, but he held back his devastation because for me and my sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, for both of us actually. I'm very grateful for him.
And you guys have recently moved house.
Yes.
And what has that's probably been something big for you guys.
Yeah.
How's that felt for you?
It's felt very refreshing. When we found out we were gonna move, I didn't really want to. I took it really hard. The concept of another change really overwhelmed me. But I think ultimately it's been the best thing to happen for me, for my mental health. It gave us a chance to, like, physically and emotionally clean out our lives a little bit. Like, we had a lot of stuff from my mum's house because we had to clean her house out in June last year. That was just kind of in the later basket in the garage. Even like things like her ashes, which when they were delivered to me, I just said, take them somewhere. Like, I don't want to touch them. And then just a brand new space. Like, there's a lot of pain in that house. I feel it just holds a lot of like sad memories. There's good ones too. Like, obviously Billy came into the world and that was her first home, but it was just so tainted by this. And now this is just like such a safe open space for us, and we just feel a lot lighter. Yeah.
You hear of how people say like shifting energy, like in your body, in like homes and spaces. And yeah, it rings true when you hear people speak around what that has done
Yeah.
for you guys.
It's crazy how it actually happens, because I was more worried about the fact that I would now not have anywhere to go that my mum had been in, like that held a memory with my mum, because her house was gone. That would be our house. And then my pop recently passed away and his house is going to be getting sold very, very soon. And I was really holding on to that, but not thinking about the fact that having a place that didn't have all of that attached to it was actually going to be for the positive. It's been refreshing. I feel like the clearest in my mind that I've ever felt. Like, the brain fog of grief plus the brain fog of postpartum, you essentially don't have a brain.
Basically can't see anything.
It just feels like less physical pressure at all times, and I can't remember things, and I just couldn't think. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I've got a little bit of motivation and drive in my life back again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been doing some amazing things alongside and have stopped for periods, but your midwifery you were talking about, you're also an incredible photographer. Is that something that you were talking about, being like different feelings and being a bit motivated? Like, is that something you're exploring getting back into?
Yeah, so I am still doing my midwifery studies, but I was meant to do a pretty intense block of placement this year. I made the decision sort of the end of last year, when I was just falling apart at the seams, that I would take this year off my placement and just really remove myself from the hospital for one, but just get myself better, I guess. I just wanted to take so much pressure off the juggle. The juggle was just draining us. It was putting pressure on, our marriage, everything. It was just a decision that we made for my mental health, really. But I've still been studying theory in the background, and I've done some like on-call births with some women and one of my best friends, which was pretty amazing recently. Photography, I've done shoots here and there over the past 18 months, but I found this so hard to do. I I guess reason one being I just didn't know how I was going to feel day to day. And you book these sessions in where you have to show up. I pride myself on the personality that I give in a session, the way that I make people feel happy and comfortable. But if I'm coming after crying all day, just not wanting to bat an eyelid at another human, it was just too hard. I just make every excuse under the sun. So the second reason was I just really found it hard to be around happy families. I have a beautiful family. I have a happy family, but I just found it hard to be around other people's. And like doing things like Mother's Day minis and Christmas minis and all that kind of stuff. People bring their mums and they want grandma photos and all that kind of stuff. And it was just something I just couldn't bring myself back to until very recently. So I've started to do that again, and it's been really, really fulfilling me again. Like back how I used to feel.
Wow. There is like so much to talk about and say. You have done an incredible job in articulating yourself. Before we finish, I just want to say, like, I mean, I didn't know your mum, but I feel like sitting here listening to you, the qualities you talk about your mum, like I can see them as you're speaking, like coming through, and I feel like I don't want to speak on her behalf, but I would say that she would be so proud of sitting here and like listening to you. So you are so beautiful for coming on and speaking so vulnerably. And I love the way that you have done that on social media, even though it's for yourself. Like, it's the reason that I connected to you, because I was like, wow, like I can just imagine so many people leaning into you that are experiencing grief or have people that are going through grief and can see how you're processing it. I will also say, side note, if anybody's on TikTok, you have a video that has gone absolutely viral, which is a baby coming out of a canal, like the vaginal canal. That one sent me. It's a fake one. That one sent me, by the way. Andrew's looking clever.
I did go viral, guys.
Yeah, that is an incredible video.
Get 200 views on every algorithm.
Yeah. Oh my God, me as well. Don't even worry. For anybody that is going through grief, what are some of the things that you would say to those people that have been beneficial for you, or just like really honest? Any advice that you would give to somebody?
Honestly, I find it really hard to give advice as I'm still navigating it myself. And this probably sounds super cliche, but you just have to be kind to yourself. Like, you have to let yourself feel the feels. There's no point beating yourself up if you've had a day in bed because you can't handle the grief, or you've had to cancel something, or say no to a friend, or the people that love you will not care. And I think just being kind to yourself and recognizing the fact that you're grieving so hard because you've lost someone so important. And if you weren't this upset, then like you obviously loved them so much. So it's okay. It's part of life to be down it, but it's not forever. I think when you're in the depths of it, and like, don't get me wrong, I still have days. Mother's Day was one of them. Didn't even look at my kids. Literally stayed in bed all day. Like, it just feels like this is it. This is how I'm always going to feel forever. And you're always going to feel different. I don't ever think I'm not going to feel different. But there are still good days out there. I know that's not the best advice, but I just really don't know yet.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
You don't just get to the end. It's not a course you finish.
It's just not a course you finish. I was a puddle the other day because my daughter did a wee on the toilet. I didn't get to tell my mum. But then, 3 hours later, we're dancing around, acting silly, and everyone's happy in the world. It's just a process, and I think asking for help, or letting people help you if they're asking to help you. Don't put your walls up, because it just makes everything harder. And it's really, really hard to, if you've never been one to accept help or need help, to become that person, feel like a burden. But I know if it was me offering help to someone, I'm not going to offer it if I didn't want to give it. So reframing the way that you see those people offering you help, like, you're not a burden. They love you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said, Brin. Thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Just like a casual convo about grief behind mics, but you're
Just
amazing.
your everyday chat.
Yeah, just your everyday chat, This has been awesome.
We did good. We cried more at coffee.
I know. I think we just like locked in and got into the zone, and I think we were just like, we're doing
we're
it.
doing this.
But I have just like I've learned so much even just sitting here listening to you. Like,
I'm glad.
yeah,
I hope
you are.
like at least one person feel like they're not alone.
Oh my God, absolutely. And these conversations are really important. They're hard, but they are really important. So thank you.
Thank you so much.